Hi, the last message I sent before it all unraveled was a pull request comment that read, "Please review the updated fraud trigger logic. It finally catches synthetic IP trails without overfitting. Should reduce false positives by 19%. The next morning, that pull request was gone. So was the entire repo. I noticed it while eating stale pretzels in the break room, scrolling through my GitHub notifications like I always did when avoiding talking to Trent from sales, who smelled like Axe body spray and tax evasion. I refreshed the page twice. Nothing, no fork, no archive, just a 404 like my work never existed. Then came the email. No greeting, no sign-off, just, "Hi, Camilla." For transparency, the predictive risk engine has been reassigned to Kyle, Intern, summer rotation. Please provide a knowledge transfer doc by EOD. I laughed so loud a junior dev dropped her LaCroix. Kyle, the same Kyle who once asked if the backend was that place where the emails go. Kyle, whose entire contribution last sprint was changing a button's color to Bitcoin blue and breaking half the CSS in dark mode. That Kyle. They didn't even have the decency to call it a demotion. Just a learning opportunity for cross-functional growth. Corporate for you built something valuable, so we're going to hand it to a golden retriever in a startup hoodie. But here's what they forgot. I didn't build it in isolation. I built it like a vault, and I left behind just enough scaffolding to watch whoever tried to climb it fall screaming. So I went home, opened my local clone, poured myself a flat Coke Zero and a double shot of petness, did what any engineer with a bruised ego and full system access would do. I started writing a migration script, not to transfer ownership, but to reclaim it. But before I ran it, I made a backup, not of the code, of Slack messages, of merge timestamps, and of a very specific commit hash that referenced something nobody else had noticed yet, not even Kyle, especially not Kyle. Sunday, 2:12 a.m. House was dead quiet, except for my radiator wheezing like it owed me rent. I was still in the same hoodie from Friday, sleeves stiff with stress sweat and soy sauce. The glow from my second monitor lit up my living room like a crime scene, and in a way it was. I wasn't just migrating the repo, I was performing an autopsy. On my own code, line by line, commit by commit, tracing the fingerprints I'd left behind. Not just for function, for proof. See, they thought the predictive risk engine was just a tidy little fraud filter. Plug and play. Drop in the intern, slap on some Jira stickers, and call it scalable. But they didn't know what I'd buried in it. Not malicious code. I'm not an idiot. But proprietary logic, something I drafted outside of work hours, designed on my own machine, modeled using personal sandbox datasets they never touched. The algorithm that made the engine actually smart belonged to them. It was mine. And thanks to my bad habit of obsessively backing up everything, I had versioned receipts. That commit hash from Friday, the one nobody noticed, it referenced a module titled Stingray Beta v3. Stingray wasn't part of the official architecture. Stingray was a silent observer, a behavior profiler. It didn't just flag suspicious logins, it learned user drift over time, like how real customers typo their passwords at 2 a.m., or how fraud rings simulate human randomness but never quite nail it. It was machine learning duct taped to intuition, and it worked like nothing else we had. When Kyle imported the repo Sunday morning, because yes, I got the webhook ping when he did, he inherited the shell. But the guts, I had already scrubbed them clean. Instead of Stingray, the module just printed a dummy return, all good, cute, right? But it gets better. At 10:47 p.m., I pushed an update to a private repo, my repo, titled Stingray Requiem. It included not only the full logic, but a detailed architecture breakdown, annotated commits, and a downloadable presentation slide deck labeled for CTO eyes only. I timestamped everything. Then I locked the repo behind biometric 2FA and smiled, because I knew what was coming. Monday morning was sprint review, and they were walking in blind, holding a bomb they thought was a flashlight. Sprint review started the way they all did. Fake smiles, cold bagels, and Kyle grinning like a toddler who just colored inside the lines for the first time. Aaron kicked things off with his usual TED talk voice. Today, Kyle's going to walk us through the exciting upgrades to the risk engine, Camilla's foundational work, now with fresh eyes and agile momentum. Fresh eyes. Agile momentum. My God, just say you fed my project through a paper shredder and handed the confetti to a child. I muted my mic and watched. Kyle clicked through the deck I once bled over, my flowcharts replaced with Canva icons and phrases like next-gen fraud synergy. Then he tabbed into the code window. I watched his mouse hover, then freeze, then backtrack. He scrolled up, then down, then up again. His voice cracked slightly. So this is the core fraud logic we're using. I refactored some of the legacy variables and streamlined the return values. Legacy. He called my logic legacy. Like he'd inherited an attic full of broken VCRs instead of a fully working AI module that flagged $3 million in synthetic churn last quarter. Then he clicked the test suite. The terminal spat out one lonely line, all good. Silence. Real silence. Not the awkward kind, not the buffering audio kind, the kind that smells like smoke and impending lawsuits. Aaron squinted at the screen like it owed him alimony. Wait, where's the behavior matrix? The anomaly classifier? Camilla, didn't the original repo include? I unmuted. Oh, it did, I said, calm, sweet, like molasses before the flood. But I assume Kyle didn't need it, fresh eyes. Kyle's face flushed so red I thought his webcam lens might crack. He started stammering something about version mismatches and weird conflicts during the import. I dropped the hammer. Maybe check commit 89F3E7B. Last clean version before Stingray was extracted. But I doubt he can access it. That logic was part of my private research, not company property. I worked on it off hours, not on your servers. Dead silence. Then I heard it. The CTO's voice. He wasn't even supposed to be in the meeting. Camilla, did you document that separation? I leaned forward, turned up my mic gain. Time-stamped commits, external repo, encrypted logs, presentation draft already sent to your inbox. Titled Requiem, click, I left the meeting. 15 minutes later, the sprint review was still going, without a single slide progressed, because I had just detonated a thermonuclear truth in the middle of their happy little stand-up. And they were choking on the fallout. I didn't go back to work that day. Instead, I microwaved leftover Thai, turned off Slack, and watched the GitHub traffic graph on my private repo spike like a cardiac arrest. Multiple someones were crawling every commit, every branch, every footnote like bloodhounds in a house with no exits. By 3 p.m., the CTO had emailed me twice. First, politely, let's connect about Stingray. Very impressive work. Then, nervously, we may need to clarify IP boundaries. Legal has some questions. I didn't respond, not yet. I wanted them marinating in confusion just a little longer. By 4 p.m., someone tried to log into my private repo using an old staging credential. I got the alert. IP trace, corporate VPN. Nice try, Jason. That night, I finally opened LinkedIn. My inbox looked like Christmas in Silicon Valley. 3 recruiters. 2 VPs, 1 invite to speak at a fraud detection panel I'd been rejected from last year. I didn't answer any of them. I was waiting on something else. Monday night passed in a buzz of passive-aggressive group DMs. Kyle hadn't said a word since the sprint call, but someone anonymously updated the shared roadmap doc to say, fraud module temporarily paused pending architecture clarification. Translation. The intern broke the engine, and now we're praying she gives it back. But I wasn't interested in giving it back. I was interested in Linda. Linda was our HR director, a polyester phoenix who could gut a department with a smile and a scented candle. She's the one who gave me my development feedback last quarter, something about being more collaborative and avoiding territorial tone. That was after I'd caught her pet project silently merging into prod with an unvetted vendor API. She was also the one who signed off on reassigning Stingray to Kyle. So I sent her a gift. Not flowers, not chocolate, a calendar invite. Subject, ownership audit, Stingray IP attached. A link to a Google Doc titled Breakdown of R&D Hours vs. Company Time. 17 pages, annotated with screenshots, time card overlays, Git diffs, Slack timestamp comparisons, and one final note at the bottom before legal gets involved. I'd prefer an apology. She didn't respond, but I know she opened it 12 times. Tuesday morning, my badge still scanned green, but the front desk receptionist wouldn't meet my eyes. The office smelled like panic sweat and cucumber toner, and everyone suddenly had deep focus time the second I walked past their desks. Kyle wasn't even pretending anymore. His chair was empty, laptop gone. Last seen on Slack at 3:42 a.m., sending a single message in the #devgeneral channel. I think I messed up something major. Sorry, no emoji. That's how you knew it was real. My inbox was a mosaic of touch-base requests, most of them vague as hell. But then came the one that made me sit up straight. Subject: urgent privileged legal and IP conversation from internal counsel at company name. I opened it. Camilla, I'd like to invite you to a meeting today at 3:30 p.m. with our internal legal team and a representative from the executive board. This is an exploratory conversation regarding the recent confusion surrounding Stingray's deployment lineage and ownership. We appreciate your cooperation and are eager to resolve this amicably. Warmly, Anita Counsel, Data and Privacy. I RSVP'd yes, and I opened the draft folder on my desktop, titled In Case They Try Anything. It had 3 files. A screen recording of Kyle fumbling through the repo on Monday, clearly misrepresenting the architecture. A Slack message from Linda dated March 2nd, instructing me to do the Stingray work off hours if it's not part of this quarter's deliverables. And the piece de resistance, a voice memo, accidental but oh so clear, the hallway conversation I'd recorded by pure luck. Aaron's voice, chuckling, just give it to the intern. Camilla's too attached, if she quits, she quits. We've got the code. Wrong, you didn't have the code. You had a shell I emptied like a skin suit. You didn't own the soul of it, and now you didn't even own the story. At 3:30 sharp, I clicked the Zoom link. Anita looked tired. Someone from the board was there, trying to look casual in a hoodie that cost more than my rent. Linda was late, they smiled, I didn't. Anita started, we're hoping to come to an understanding about where Stingray fits within company ownership parameters. You've clearly done incredible work and we want to honor that. I nodded, waited, then I shared my screen. First, the doc, then the voice memo. And finally, I clicked play on the screen recording. By minute 3, the board guy stopped slouching. By minute 6, Anita's smile cracked. When I finished, I leaned in and said it plainly, I have no interest in suing. But I do have every intention of owning what I built. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to update the attribution. You're going to issue an internal correction. And Linda, she's going to apologize, in writing. I watched Anita blink. Watched the board guy look off-screen at someone else, probably on another muted call. And then Linda finally joined. Late. Flustered, already aware of everything she'd lost. Linda appeared in the call like a summoned demon who realized the pentagram was drawn wrong. Hair just slightly frazzled, eyes darting, voice pitched a little too high, like she'd rehearsed calm but forgot the script. Apologies for the delay, she said, smoothing her blazer like that could iron out the panic. I didn't say a word, neither did Anita. She just turned her camera off. Classic legal move. Silence equals oxygen deprivation. Let the guilty talk themselves into the fire. Linda cleared her throat. Camilla, I think there's been some miscommunication about Stingray. I want to acknowledge your contributions and assure you we deeply value the innovation you've brought. Stop, I said, cold enough to fog glass. You don't need to value anything. You just need to own what you did. She flinched like I'd thrown a glass of ice water through the screen. I have everything. Slack message advising me to code off hours. The internal emails, the voice memo, and my Git logs, they make your case look like a Netflix docuseries titled How Not to Steal IP and Get Caught in 4K. She went quiet, so I pressed, say it. Linda stared. You reassigned my project to an intern with 0 experience. You tried to pass off my private research as company property. You signed off on every move, say it. A full 10 seconds passed, and I made a poor judgment call. No, I snapped. Say it right. Her voice cracked on the 3rd word. I tried to take credit for something that wasn't mine. I'm sorry. And for a moment, the call was dead quiet, like the universe needed a beat to absorb it. Then I delivered my final blow. I've drafted a press piece, Medium article, titled The Intern, the Repo, and the Woman You Tried to Silence. I haven't hit publish yet. That depends on what happens next. And blanched, I leaned back. Here's what I want: retroactive credit on all Stingray documentation. A public internal announcement correcting authorship. A guaranteed severance package. And your name? Removed from anything tied to my project. Anita unmuted, voice suddenly warm like syrup poured over a knife. I think those are more than reasonable requests. The board guy nodded. Once. I left the meeting without another word. An hour later, I got an email from legal. All terms accepted. Attached was a PDF. Subject line, internal correction attribution clarification signed by HR, with Linda's name nowhere on it. That night, I poured myself a bourbon I'd been saving for something stupid like a promotion. Turns out revenge pairs better with ice cubes than validation ever did. I didn't celebrate. I watched. By morning, the Slack channels were humming. Internal post went live at 8 a.m. A pinned announcement in #engineering all. A polite but surgical correction outlining the Stingray module's development history, now with proper authorship, version control proof, and a note that future enhancements would follow the original architectural vision established by Camilla S. No mention of Kyle, no mention of Linda, but every engineer read between the lines. Reactions flooded in: fire, clap, saluting face, and a single knife emoji from someone in finance I didn't even know. By noon, Kyle emailed me from his personal account. Subject line, I messed up. His message wasn't pathetic, it was honest. I didn't know they were handing me your work. I thought I was shadowing. Aaron made it sound like it was just maintenance. I panicked when it broke. I know I should have said something. I'm sorry, I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, just because there was nothing left to say. I'd already moved the repo again. Not to another GitHub account, no. I went bigger. I uploaded Stingray to a private invite-only beta platform backed by one of those whisper-funded fraud tech startups in Zurich, through a friend. A quiet deal. Silent equity. By the end of the week, they'd wired me $25,000 as a consulting onboarding bonus for something they called pre-market behavioral intelligence assets. Translation, they paid for my ghost. And the best part, I still owned the name. Stingray trademark was mine now, officially, filed under my name. Registered 2 hours after the original Friday betrayal. And the company, they couldn't even use the word without cutting me a check. I checked LinkedIn one last time that evening. Linda's profile was updated, currently exploring new opportunities. No banner, no explanation. Just a slow collapse, one bullet point at a time. I smiled, not big, not evil. Just enough to remind myself that sometimes silence is the loudest warning you can give, right before the scream. Friday, 9:17 a.m. 1 week since the reallocation. I walked into the office one last time, not to return, just to retrieve the half-dead ficus I'd kept near the window and the ceramic mug that said code like a girl, fight like a lawsuit. The front desk girl nodded at me with quiet reverence, like I'd survived a war they'd only heard about through memes and whispers. The room hushed when I passed. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just still. Like the air remembered something the people didn't have the words for. Linda's office was empty, nameplate gone. The scented candle she always lit, something nauseating and vanilla, had been scraped off the desk like residue. All that remained was a faint scorch mark on reputation. Kyle sat at a hot desk now. Headphones in, body curled like a question mark. He looked up when I passed and mouthed, "Thanks, I didn't stop." On my way out, Aaron caught me by the elevator. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and his voice had that tight customer service quiver. "Camilla, I just wanted to say no hard feelings, right?" I tilted my head. Let the pause hang. "Sure," I said, "no hard feelings. But you should know your new fraud architecture is still using 3 of my legacy endpoints. You'll want to patch those. One of them leaks referral data to an abandoned staging bucket." His face blanched. I stepped inside the elevator and pressed the button. As the doors closed, I offered one last line. "Oh, and don't worry. I documented that too." Ding. By noon, I was sitting in a sunlit cafe downtown, sipping espresso, phone on mute, watching Stingray's beta metrics tick upward like a revenge-fueled stock chart. Real clients, real traction, real freedom. And as I opened my inbox, I saw a new message. Subject, Keynote Invite Women in AI 2025 subline. "We'd be honored if you'd speak about ethical ownership and innovation integrity." I laughed, closed the laptop. Let them build statues later. I built Stingray. I buried the thieves. And I walked out with the name, the soul, and the silence that followed the storm.